What's going on, Broncos country? Welcome into a live Broncos breakdown this Tuesday afternoon. We're going to run through some draft rumors and buzz out there, talk about sleepers, talk about the potential of moving back up in the draft. Could Denver make some trades and find themselves back in round number 2? And at the end of the live show, we have a live Q&A. So get those questions in. I already see Garrett's getting his questions locked and loaded. Use hashtag Broncos. Or if you want to super chat, goes a long way to keep the lights on here at Chat Sports and help support your favorite Broncos YouTube channel. Now, while we let the audience build up, light up the comment section, shout out your city. Let me know where you are tuning in from. I'm going to be giving shout outs to everyone who comments where they're watching from today. I know we've got Garrett tuning in. The YouTube studio come in with a new update. All these names have some colors now. Yeah, how about that? We've got Eddie from Smelly Greeley. Greeley smelling bad today. Octavio's in Phoenix. Octavio, you're not in usual West Virginia. Aaron's in LA. Chance is in Kansas. We got Demetrius in Lehigh Acres. Drake's tuning in from Omaha. We got Gwilm something from Wales. Love to see that. We have Timor from Salina, Kansas. Dalton's tuning in from Ohio. David's in Plant City, Florida. And Eric Hernandez from Aurora. And Ian's in LA. We got New Orleans in the house. I love it. Glad you're enjoying Phoenix. Great spot to be in. Billy also tuning in from the Big Easy. So keep getting those cities in the comment section. Let me know where you are tuning in from today, as Steven is watching from Orange Park, Florida. I love to see the fan base have no boundaries, right? It does not stop in just Colorado. It goes from the Pacific to the Atlantic to the north to the south. Great to see. Now, we're going to talk a lot about the draft today. So that kind of leads me into this next question here. What position do you think Denver should draft first? It's really tough to predict anything for a team when they don't pick till the 67th overall pick, right? If you're drafting, just say like 12th overall, Houston, for example, they've got an idea of who's not going to be on the clock or who's not going to be on the board when they're on the clock. They can start crossing off some names. For Denver, they can cross off like 50 names, 1 through 50-ish. But then after that, from 60 to 70, it's a hodgepodge, right? You're going to have some guys fall, some guys go early, so they have to be prepared for a variety of different options that present themselves. So what position should Denver go with? I'm kind of leaning edge rusher, which is a bummer because what did they prioritize so much lately? Drafted an edge rusher last year with pick 64, Nick Bonito. Their big free agent signing last offseason, Randy Gregory. Can we rely on either of those two players in 2023? I can't bank on Randy Gregory playing even close to a full season. He's never done it before. And as for Bonito, he has to look like an NFL player. He did not last year, if we're being honest. Octavio says edge rusher as well. I just got the middle finger from Sam Brown. He went to OU. There is an express from Norman to Denver. I don't know what it is, but George Payton, right, Delaren Turner-Yell, Nick Bonito, there is just a one. Ben Powers now. Yes. Anyone else I'm blanking on? I think those are the only three. I'm sure there's like a 1 or 2 like backup offensive linemen, but I think that's everybody right there. Demetrius trade Bijan Robinson. I think you mean draft Bijan Robinson, and he will definitely be off the board at 67, or really anywhere Denver could even get close to. Geese says edge and center and also cornerback. I agree with you on the center. Sean Payton doesn't. Well, at least that's what he said, right? He said that Lloyd Cushenberry is our center. He's technically your center right now. That could change with the draft pick, and we're going to look at that later on. But definitely some needs going on right now for the Broncos when it comes to edge and secondary, which is kind of odd because they've invested so much in the secondary, it feels like. And yet every team is constantly looking for more corners. It never feels like it's enough. They've got Surtain. They've got Simmons. I love Caden Stearns. But they're banking on Damari Mathis to step into a bigger role. And there's no real backups after that. So I can see why adding another corner would be a big priority for the Broncos. Now, we tried to get Buffalo Wild Wings for lunch today at work. They were out of boneless wings, which I have no issue with. because I'm a bone-in kind of guy. Love my BOGO. It's Tuesday. Sam's giggling. But what kind of wings do you prefer? Want the bone in it? You want the boneless chicken wings, right? Do you want chicken nuggets or do you want big boy wings? Let me know. I for bone in, O for bone out. Sam Brown's going to hop on the mic because he is furious with this take right here. So, Sam, tell everyone about how you want your dino chicken nuggies and barbecue sauce.
For starters, this is blasphemous. I ordered bone-in wings on today's
very proud,
lunch.
very proud. It's BOGO today at Beat Ups.
Of course it is.
Go
I
for yes.
went half Parmesan garlic, half honey barbecue. I was really looking forward to it.
Yep.
No, this is just actually a note for the audience that this question, and more specifically bone-in and bone-out, and PD already knows where I'm going with this, takes me back to about 2 years ago now.
Almost 2 years ago, yeah.
Around that time, when Mr. Matthew Peterson was interviewing and applying for a role here at Chat Sports. And they had to do a demo video, an 8-minute video talking about the team.
It was a great campfire story.
I don't remember which team it was.
I was assigned to, everyone was assigned to cover the Bears.
It might have been the Bears, yeah. And PD breaks down the bone-in, bone-out approach. Bone-in is the facts. It's the nose on the ground. It's the man on the street.
It's the big J blue check mark.
It's the big J stuff. The bone-out is the behind the scenes, the
rumors,
the extrapolating of the story,
connecting
and what
the dots.
Exactly. So,
Charlie Day.
Yes.
Verbal
connecting
meme.
the dots. There is no Carol in HR. But yes, I just want to let the Broncos audience know
Thank you for filling
that was quite a cathartic moment for me.
Yeah, that's something.
Look how far you've come.
Once
Look at
I
you
got
now.
hired here at Chat Sports, they never let me live down.
Look at you. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? No, never me. Okay. While we get our wing flavors and orders in the comment section, we're going to jump into a live Broncos breakdown and really start doing a live show for you guys. But first, who's your favorite Broncos player of all time? I'm going to open this up to every single person, so you can go with the Duke of Denver, you can go with Peyton Manning, but I do applaud those of you that go to that second tier. You know what I mean? As I call them, second jersey guys. What I mean by that is anyone can get the quarterback's jersey, right? Anyone can go out and get a Russell Wilson jersey, and people are going to look at you and go, oh, you're a Broncos fan. You know football, right? You know the Broncos. No. People that get the Russell Wilson jersey, people that get the quarterback jersey, they just grab the first jersey that they see at the pro store. It's the guys who get the Justin Simmons jerseys, the Tim Patrick jerseys. Those guys know ball. They know Broncos football. So I want to know who your favorite player is all time. If you go with the John Elway or Peyton Manning, I will judge. Okay, Aaron Gonzalez go with Von Miller. They're not quarterbacks, so he's not a quarterback, so he gets a pass. But he's dangerously close to just surface level, but I still accept it. Champ Bailey's a great one. We got Terrell Davis, Derek Wolfe. Derek Wolfe was in the news not too long ago. Did you see the size of that mountain lion he killed? It was 3 times the size of him, an NFL player. Steve Atwater, that's a great one. Hardest hitting safety in the league. Keith Moore says Steve Foley. I like it. Demaryius Thomas. It's funny that you mentioned that just because today, 20 minutes ago, Sam and I were watching the Demaryius Thomas tribute that got, resurfaced on Twitter. So it's not an anniversary or anything like that.
Name an NFL player you missed.
Okay, very good. Name an NFL player you miss. Absolutely. We love DT. Chris Harris or Von Miller from Nicholson. Good ones. I like it. Now, we're going to have a mailbag at the end of today's show, so get those questions in. Use hashtag Broncos, or if you want to skip the line and guarantee your question gets on screen, Super Chat definitely goes a long way. Greatly appreciated. If you want to be the MVP of the show, right? If you want to put your nuts in the wheelbarrow and show everyone you're the biggest Broncos fan out there, liking the video, commenting, all that good stuff goes a long way. But man, Super Chats, they are greatly appreciated. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. So, with that being, whoa, we got our first Super Chat of the day. Let's go, Leslie. Leslie's getting the party started. We'll get that Super Chat on screen for you in just a moment, Leslie. Thank you very much. Producer Matthew McCullough is behind the 1s and 2s today, so clap it up for Big Tex. But Kitchener Leslie, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Best Broncos channel in the nation. Thank you. Very kind words. Shout out to you, Leslie. Thank you so much. Appreciate you tuning in, rocking and rolling with us. Get the Super Chats rolling in. More Super Chats we get, I don't know, the more out of hand this show could possibly get. So, every super chat does go on screen. So if you've got a take, you've got an opinion or a question you want everyone watching to see, super chat and we will throw it on screen for you. Now, here's what's on tap for today. We're going to look at some trade up targets, right? Guys Denver could potentially fall in love with and decide to move back into round 2 of the draft and land. NFL draft sleepers, because let's be honest, when you're not picking until pick 67, you got to start thinking about the day 3 guys. The day 3 guys are your day 2 guys, unfortunately. So some sleepers to keep an eye on, some guys that later on people might be, hidden gems, if you will. And then a live Q&A at the end of the show. So like Leslie just did, you can super chat and get on screen or use hashtag Broncos and producer Matthew McCullough will, you'll be at his mercy. He'll pick the questions he likes the most, and he's got some major nepotism going on. So can't guarantee your question will get on screen that way. You're at the mercy of big techs. All right, we got a green light to start the show. All right, for everyone watching right now, like the video if you have not already. That just boosts us to more Broncos fans on YouTube. And let's jump into a live Broncos breakdown. On today's show, we're going to check out 5 players that Denver could trade up for in this upcoming NFL draft, and one guy Denver might already be eyeing for a potential trade up. So that's what's on tap for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Matthew Peterson here from the Broncos Breakdown. Also, quickly reminding you, if you're looking for more NFL draft coverage, be sure to visit our exclusive NFL Draft YouTube channel here at Chat Sports. Go to youtube.com/chatnfl. That link's in the comments and the description of today's show, so make sure you give them a visit. Now, with that being said, let's jump into this show. Broncos trade up candidates. I've got 5 players that Denver could fall in love with in the pre-draft process and decide, you know what? This is someone we want to go out and get, right? This is not someone we want to risk seeing if they fall to us at pick 67. We want to get our guy, and if that means giving up more picks when, look at it. Denver right now, we'll throw it on screen for you, only has 5 picks in this upcoming draft. So it definitely feels like a long shot, maybe not just a long shot, unlikely, that they take 2 picks or 3 picks to move up some spots. But I don't think you can rule anything out, right? George and Sean Payton have proven that they are not going to be passive head coaches and GMs. They are going to be aggressive, and if they want someone, they are going to get someone. So let's check out 5 players that Denver might be looking at in this upcoming draft to go out and get and move up to do. Now, some background here. When it comes to moving up in the draft, if the Broncos combine their 67th and 68th overall pick, that lands them in the 50-ish overall range. So if they bundle their 2/3, they can move to the middle to late second round and jump up 15, 17-ish spots, somewhere in that range. So with that being said, let's visit number 1 candidate. That is Byron Young, the edge rusher out of Tennessee. Now, some background information on Byron Young, and I'm going to warn you guys right now, ESPN, they're going to need to change their pants for how many times they talk about his rough upbringing. So, the Broncos reportedly brought him in for a top 30 pre-draft visit. By rough upbringing, I mean rough path to Tennessee. Now, he was a 2-year starter for the Volunteers. He is not a phenomenal run stopper, which when I'm looking in day 2, I am hoping to find someone who's more than just a pass rusher on occasion. But last season for the Vols, 37 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 7 sacks. He's a 2-year starter at Tennessee, like I said. But he's got a phenomenal, very motivating story to how he got to the SEC. So he was originally a no-star recruit. He went to a JUCO-ish school, dropped out of there, worked at a Dollar General store for 18 months, and then he went back to JUCO for 2 seasons, and then transferred to Tennessee and found himself starting for their defensive line, and now he looks to be a second to third round pick in this upcoming draft. Now, Dane Brugler from The Athletic said this on Byron Young. Overall, Young can be engulfed in the run game, and his rush stalls too quickly at contact, but his energy and pass rush flashes lead to backfield plays. Though he has limitations in the run game, he has the potential to make a living as a glorified sub-rusher in the NFL. Now, before I give you more on Byron Young, who do you think Denver should draft first position-wise? Should it be an edge rusher? Should it be a corner? Let me know in the comments section below. I like Byron Young. The Broncos had a pre-draft visit with him, so they clearly have him somewhere on their radar. Whether or not he'll be on the board at pick 67 remains to be seen, but if he starts to slip, this could be someone the Broncos move up to get. Moving on here, after Byron Young, the next candidate is Marvin Mims, wide receiver out of Oklahoma. Yes, he has a relative in the NFL you might have heard of, also a former second-round pick. Now, he is a big play machine. He had an average of 20.1 yards per catch last year, by far the most in college football amongst qualifying players. He adds some very much needed speed to this wide receiver room. It's not, a complete slow-mo movie in the wide receiver room. You've got Jerry Jeudy, but Courtland Sutton and Tim Patrick, they're not burners, but Mims is. Now, in Mel Kiper's latest 2-round mock draft, he had Mims go 63 overall. So what we're looking at here is not guys Denver could get early in the second round, because they're not going to get too early in the second round. But maybe they move up 10 spots or so because they fall in love with someone like Marvin Mims. And they go, you know what? Let's give up a third and a fourth or a fifth or some other day 3 pick, jump up to 8 to 10 spots and land a player like Mims, who, do we desperately need a wide receiver for this team? I don't think it's really at the top of any teams or any of the Broncos' biggest needs right now. But it is a good reminder, when you look at this wide receiver room for the Broncos, it's a really good wide receiver room when everyone's healthy and everyone's playing up to their expectations or even close to their expectations. The issue is we have not seen them play either all healthy or all living up to their expectations really together ever, right? Jerry Jeudy, slowish start coming out of Alabama. Tim Patrick missed all of last season. And there's an Amber Alert out for Courtland Sutton ever since he got that contract extension. So this could be a Courtland Sutton replacement if he does not improve in 2023. And they look at Mims and they go, we don't desperately need a wide receiver right now, but we think he could be the real deal, right? We think he could be something special. So you know what? Let's go out and let's draft a potential replacement if Sutton is sluggish in 2023. Now, we are trying to reach 14,000 subscribers here at the channel by the time the NFL draft rolls around. We're 790 away. Now, I'm not sure there's 790 people watching right now who have not subscribed, but I know there's a good chunk of you out there. So let's start chipping away at it, baby. Like I like to say, when you bet the over, every single basket, point, or goal counts. So every single sub counts. So make sure to subscribe if you have not already. Now, getting back to our trade-up candidates. At number 3, it is the center out of Minnesota, John Michael Schmitz. I mean, just look at him. Beautiful smile right there. But he's not smiling when he's hiking the ball to Russell Wilson. He's a first-team All-American, All-Big Ten player for Minnesota in 2022. He was a 4-year starter for the Gophers, so he's got plenty of experience. This is not a project pick, right? This is not someone who needs to be coached up. He is going to step in and be a starter on an NFL team. And he might be the final piece of the puzzle for fixing the Broncos' offensive line after signing Ben Powers and Mike McGlinchey. Center is really the last spot they need to address. Now, PFF last year, hard-ons for John Michael Schmitz. 92.3 overall grade. Pass blocking is 81. But that run blocking, something that Lloyd Cushenberry has just not excelled at, 92.4. This might not be a splashy pick, right? I get it. It's an interior offensive lineman. Those aren't cornerstone pieces for franchises. But you know what it is? It's a safe pick, and it's a reliable pick for an important position. A spot that Russell Wilson has never had great success at in terms of long-lasting relationships and like just overall repetitiveness with his center from Seattle over to Denver now. So if it means you move up, I don't know, 8-10 spots similar to Marvin Mims, I'm not really all that opposed to it. Now we're going to look at some more draft trade-up targets in just a moment. But speaking of the NFL draft, you know it's coming. The official 2023 Broncos draft hat. If you have not gotten yours already, I just don't want you to miss out because the deal is not going to last forever. So go to chatsports.com/Broncos draft. That link's in the comments and the description of today's show. Get the official 2023 NFL draft hat for your Denver Broncos today when you use that link. Moving on here, after John Michael Schmitz, it is cornerback from South Carolina. This is Cam Smith. Quietly, I feel like South Carolina is becoming DBU because they've had a lot of good corners lately, and they have some good ones in this draft. Now, I went compliment sandwich here for Cam Smith, right? Pro, con, pro. The first pro is excellent arm length, and that's something you do look for in DBs because, I mean, that's what she said, but an extra inch could mean a lot when it comes to a pass breakup or a touchdown. He had 24 pass breakups for the Gamecocks. The con is, despite like his biggest success or his biggest strength is also his biggest weakness. Because he has such long arms, he finds himself draping those long arms around wide receivers' hips and whatnot, and he was penalized a ton last year because he abuses that arm length and he finds himself getting his hands in places where they do not belong. Now, another pro is he's got plenty of experience for South Carolina. You look at his coverage stats last season, 2 touchdowns allowed, under 50% completion percentage, 5 pass breakups, and 1 interception. He was a very productive player for them for quite a long time. Now, where would he slot in here? You could potentially move him to slot after K'Wan Williams is maybe gone after this season because he's on the last year of his contract. Or you can let Damari Mathis and Cam Smith battle it out for the other CB2 job. Because Damari Mathis last year, he had a lot of good tape. He had a lot of optimism to go, you know what, that could be a starting corner in the NFL for the Broncos for the next couple of years. But he had some WTF games where you're like, this is not someone we can just bank on and check the box and move on here. He needs some coaching. He needs to refine his technique a little bit. But in round 2, to find that lengthy of a corner, those guys don't grow on trees. So this could be a very sneaky good pick if Denver wants to move up a couple spots to get him. He's a ball hawk. He had a lot of interceptions and pass breakups at South Carolina. That could be something that Denver wants to see come over to the Rocky Mountains. Moving on to our 5th and final trade-up candidate. It is the edge rusher from Auburn, Alabama, Derick Hall. Now, Derick Hall, he has quite the story in terms of his, just overall life. He was born premature. Read Dane Brugler's right up on him. It is eye-opening to see what he went through to get where he is now. Now, he was a first-team All-SEC player last year, and he led the Tigers in tackles for loss and sacks, a 3-year starter for them. Now, I'm not quite sure if he would be a defensive end in a 3-4 front, right? A Jonathan Harris, a 5 technique, or if he would be an outside linebacker. And even Jonathan Harris really isn't a 5 technique, if we're being honest. So, Derick Hall for Auburn last season, 60 tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Auburn was a disaster of a program last season, but he was one of the very few bright spots that they had. So when it comes to where he would fit in on Denver's front 5, you've signed Zach Allen, and they are expecting a lot out of him because they cannot bank on Randy Gregory and Baron Browning to be there healthy and consistent forever. So the Broncos are one injury away from Randy Gregory or Baron Browning from having a big problem on their hands, where they have to rely on redshirt Nick Benito last year, newcomer Jacob Martin, who didn't show us much last year after getting traded, or 7th-round pick Jonathan Cooper. So adding some more depth and adding a guy who could take over and be a permanent fixture on this defensive line or as an outside linebacker, that's pretty tempting. That'd be hard to pass up on. Plus, Derick Hall is just a really good player. Now, that is it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing down below. Helps us grow our channel and get you guys more Broncos content. Now, shout out your favorite team outside of the NFL. NBA playoffs, play-in game tonight as the Nuggets are awaiting to see who they will face. I'm guessing they don't, the Nuggets are going to steamroll the Lakers, even if the Lakers do beat the T-Wolves or whoever ends up coming out of it. But nevertheless, shout out your favorite team. Is it the Avs? Is it the Nuggets? Is it something outside of Denver altogether? Let me know what you're thinking down below. I got to go Broncos. That definitely plays here. It's just not the answer we're looking for, but I mean, it's a good shot. That's in the middle of the fairway. That's what a go Broncos is right there. Tamora says we need depth at corner, especially if Hicks gets in trouble. You know, Hicks in trouble or not, you should not be relying on him because he did not get much opportunities last year to showcase his skill set anyway, but it wasn't like he had a great preseason, if we're being honest, when he did get some time. Kansas City Royals, they are not having a good year so far, but you never overreact to the first 10 games in the MLB season. Do not be the guy that gets caught, drooling a little bit after a great start. The Rays are like 9-0 or 10-0. I don't know if they're still undefeated. 10-0. Okay. We got a Cubs. We got a Rockies. Chris Bryant, handshake. Get it done right there. Arsenal's coming in from Lambeau, UK. Keep getting those favorite teams. Dylan's Suns in 4. You never know. Okay, so get those cities in the comment section. Now, coming up next on today's show, we're going to be checking out some draft sleepers. So, sort of the inverse of what we just did 5-10 minutes ago. Instead of talking about guys Denver could move up to get, what about guys Denver could wait for and find in day 3 of the draft that could be sneaky good producers? I mean, it's not like Justin Simmons was a first-round pick, so there's always a lot of great players buried in the draft, and they're just waiting to be uncovered. We got Braves coming in, Phoenix Suns, Houston Rockets, Lakers, so we know who Aaron's pulling for tonight. Ben says Derick Hall, nice. Yep. Derrick Rose. Okay, so let's get into it. Are you ready, Tex? All right, we got the green light. Let's talk about some draft sleepers for the Broncos. Coming up on today's show, we're going to look at some potential draft sleepers for Denver. So instead of looking at guys that the Broncos could maybe trade up to get, what about players that Denver has a good shot at getting with one of their 5 picks, which ranges from late day 2 and then all across the board in day 3? So first things first, I want to hear from everyone watching. Give me your NFL draft sleepers, right? I'm going to go through my list of 5 players, but I'm curious if anyone watching right now has a player on their mind that they think is a good sleeper. So let me know in the comments section below. Our first sleeper here is a quarterback. I'm not doing this to oust Russell Wilson, but Dorian Thompson-Robinson, DTR, he might be the ultimate sleeper and someone people fall in love with. Last season for UCLA, his 5th year as the starter for the Bruins, 3,100 yards, 27 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 12 touchdowns on the ground. If anyone watching also was a degenerate gambler and bet on Pac-12 After Dark, you knew UCLA over was a lock because of DTR. Now, Denver currently has a bit of a shallow quarterback room here with just Wilson and Stidham. I 100% expect them to add another quarterback, whether that's through the draft or just a UDFA to have an extra camp arm. That remains to be seen. Now, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he's athletic, he's a playmaker, he uses his legs to extend plays. He has some great fireworks moments. The issue is he's a little bit undersized, and he doesn't always see the field all that well. He doesn't recognize where all 11 defenders are. And after 5 years at UCLA, unfortunately, where you'd want to see him make growth, right, in the mental game, you never really saw him become a field general despite a ton of experience for UCLA. So that is sort of the hiccup people have on DTR. Now, I'm all for taking a shot at a quarterback in this draft class, especially in day 3. And if it pans out, DTR would be great. The way I see it is Dorian Thompson-Robinson will not be an average quarterback in the NFL. He will either be an amazing quarterback or out of the league in 3 seasons. There is no in between for DTR. So it's worth the amazingness on a 5th-round pick, in my opinion. So that is our first draft sleeper. Let's check out our second draft sleeper now. This is Israel or Izzy Abanikanda, running back out of Pitt. I rehearsed that name 20 times. Did not matter when the lights were on and the camera was on. So Israel Abanikanda, running back out of Pitt. Now, for the Panthers last season, 1,400 yards, 20 touchdowns, 6 yards a pop. Again, you're going to see a lot of players who have great numbers coming out of college. They all don't live up to the billing. I remember when James Washington led FBS in receiving yards. Did not work out super well. Now, the issue is when you look at Denver's running back room last year, there's not a whole lot of good. I mean, we love Latavius Murray, and 703 yards and 5 touchdowns in 12 games are good numbers, but none of these guys are on the roster or healthy, right? So you got to find some more running backs, and Samaje Perine is a start, but that should not be the finished product here. He was a 2-year starter at Pitt. He's got great upside due to his vision and burst, great ability to find the holes in the backfield and just squeeze on through them. The knock people have against him isn't so much for his speed or anything like that. It's a little bit about his power and his balance, meaning when he gets blown off track a little bit, he doesn't necessarily get back on track all that well. So that's where some GMs and scouts are held up on Izzy. Now, before we get to our other draft sleepers, the NFL Draft channel here at Chat Sports is growing like crazy. So if you have not subscribed to it and you're looking for an exclusive NFL Draft channel, make us your home for the next 2+ weeks. When you go to youtube.com/chatnfl, that link's in the comments and the description of today's video. All right, moving on here. After the running back from Pitt, we're going to go wide receiver. Trey Palmer out of Nebraska. So this is the definition of a true draft sleeper. Now, we do not have enough time truly the willpower to discuss Benjamin Albright's all-time meltdown on Twitter, but I still believe he does get good scoops on the Broncos. And I remember back in March when he tweeted out 2 wide receivers in this coming draft for Broncos fans to keep an eye on. Trey Palmer and Bryce Ford Wheaton from West Virginia. So, talking about the whole Albright situation that unfolded on Twitter, if you know, you know, this past week, that's its own video. And we're not going to do that. But we are going to look at Trey Palmer. So, for Nebraska last season, 71 grabs, 1,043 yards, 14 yards a reception, and 9 touchdowns for the Cornhuskers. Nebraska was awful last year. So for anyone to have any sort of productive numbers, it's going to garner some attention. Now, the wide receiver room for Denver, it doesn't actually need another wideout that badly in 2023. But 2024, man, if Courtland Sutton does not bounce back, or if Tim Patrick is a bit slow coming off the ACL injury, or if Jerry Jeudy, who I can't confidently say will be on this roster for very long, right? You never know with a trade. You might want to start thinking ahead, and Trey Palmer is a very good mid-round pick that could develop after a season or two to be a very beneficial draft pick. Now, what do you think about this question here? Who do you think is going to be wide receiver 1 for Denver in 2023? Good value on Tim Patrick, I feel like. Could he be like Michael Thomas for Sean Payton? Maybe. I got to see how well he has rebounded from his ACL injury. He's already running and whatnot. I'm going to go with Jerry Jeudy. Hopefully he can, pick up where he left off in 2022. But let me know who you think wide receiver 1 is for the Broncos this upcoming season. All right, moving on to some other draft sleepers here. This next one is Jaelyn Duncan, offensive tackle out of Maryland. Now, I've seen Jaelyn Duncan go all over the place. Some say he's a 2nd round. Some say he's a 5th round prospect. I say this. He's a really good football player, okay? Jaelyn Duncan in 2022, 7 sacks allowed, 4 hits, 17 hurries, PFF run grade of 61.9. I know what I just said does not match a ringing endorsement from PFF, but for the Terrapins, he was a very reliable player on their offensive line. And when we look at Denver's offensive line, I see a lot of good things, a lot of good faces. What I don't see is any depth. Is anyone ready for Casey Tucker or Prince to be the swing tackle of this team? Because I'm not, right? So why go offensive tackle after signing McGlinchey and getting Bowles back from an injury is, well, I got 2 reasons, but I just thought of a third. The first one is you need a new swing tackle, right? You need a new Cam Fleming. You need a new Calvin Anderson, and Jaelyn Duncan could be that for you. The second one is possible replacement for Garrett Bowles down the line, right? If Bowles does not have a great 2023 year, maybe Denver cuts ties after this season. And I'm telling you guys, GMs, they draft with 2 years down the line. They are thinking, who can I find in this draft that will be a need for us next offseason? And I'll already have a jump start on that by drafting someone this year. And the third reason is you need more depth at the offensive line. I just want to harp on that one more time. So, moving on to our 5th and final draft sleeper. I'm going to go with this guy from Eastern Michigan, Jose Ramirez. He originally went to Arizona, and then they had some coaching changes there, and he ended up transferring to a JUCO school and then winding up at Eastern Michigan. Now, in 2022, he had 66 tackles, 19 and a half tackles for loss, and 12 sacks. I get it. He might not be playing against the best offensive lines in MAC football, but that is just crazy productive. And those are numbers that, you know what? Maybe that's worth a 6th or a 7th round pick on. So for Jose Ramirez, this could be a very fun late round flyer pick in terms of looking for someone that could bring some potential, I don't know, say depth for a spot where you need more edge rushers. Now, when we look at the Broncos front 5 here, Baron Browning, Randy Gregory, I don't know if he would be an outside linebacker or if he would be battling with Aaron Patrick and Christopher Allen to be the backup defensive ends and 3 to 5 technique players like Jonathan Harris. But I think this could be worthy of a flyer late day 3 with a lot of upside. We also got to consider this. Look at the Broncos sack leaders from last season. Draymond Jones, off the team. Bradley Chubb, off the team. Baron Browning, good. Deshaun Williams, off the team. Josie Jewell, that's not his primary job. You did not pay Josie Jewell 2 years, $11.5 million to go out and tackle the quarterback. He is there to be an off-ball linebacker. You need to find more pass rushers. So if it's Jose Ramirez late, paired with another edge rusher earlier in the draft, that works for me. But Denver needs to add more pass rushers to this draft class here. Now, that's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so. We keep you guys in the loop and informed and entertained, all things draft related. So consider subscribing if you have not, and we'll see everyone later. Time to get those predictions in. Who will lead the Broncos in sacks next season? The right answer is Randy Gregory, because then that means Randy Gregory played a good chunk of the season and he lived up to his contract. If it's Baron Browning, I'm not upset about it, but I'm concerned about, well, what happened to Randy Gregory? Unless one guy's got 12 sacks and the other has 11, that could be an issue for George Paton because, I mean, his big moves in terms of free agency, trade, and draft, he's gotten the draft part down with Pat Surtain, but free agency, Randy Gregory, trade, Russell Wilson, So, Baron Browning's coming in. Ooh, a Zach Allen. Man, you got to wonder, Zach Allen and Vance Joseph carpooling? You think they shared a U-Haul? Would you share a U-Haul with your coach driving up from Phoenix to Denver? Okay, Sam says no. Vance Joseph, I think, would be a cool guy to go on a road trip with. All right, really quickly, off the top of my head, top 4 coaches to go on a road trip with. Andy Reid, because he'd know all the good diners in, like, middle of America, right? Fly over states, he would know the good spots. He knows where the good cheeseburgers are. Would not want to do Pete Carroll. He would just be smacking on the gum all drive long. I don't know, Doug Peterson's kind of a cool guy. Sean McVay, yeah, he's a pretty boy. He's not a road trip guy. Mike McDaniel, dude, he's gonna hotbox the car. If you get pulled over in the wrong state with Mike McDaniel, you're going to jail. Yep. Shanahan, I don't think he wants to talk to you. He would spend the whole time talking about ways to open up Kyle Juszczyk and, George Kittle in the blocking game more. Yeah. Okay. And then other coaches, not going to go with Matt LaFleur. Dan Campbell for sure. That's a great one. Dan Campbell's definitely on the list. And the fourth one, not going Belichick. I'm not going to D'Amico Ryans. I don't think I'm going to go Sean. Sean Payton's kind of a cool guy, actually. He might not be a bad option here. The last one, I might source the crowd here. I'm going to go with... I'm going to go with John Harbaugh. He seems like you know what John Harbaugh's going to do? He's going to fill up the tank of gas every once in a while, right? He will offer to pay and get, hey, I got next gas. I'll load us up. So I think I'm going to go with those 4 guys right there. You know what? I'll be honest, not a good coach, but I think Hackett would have been a fun guy to have in the carpool, right? As long as you knew him before he became the Broncos head coach, he would have been awesome for a road trip. But now it would just be tainted. Now, next up on the show, we've got a mailbag to get into. So get those questions in. Use hashtag Broncos, or you can super chat. Leslie sent a super chat in earlier. Does anyone want to rival Leslie to be the MVP of today's show? Super chats go a long way. So if you like the free content and you want to help support the channel, by all means, if you'd like to, go ahead and super chat. Do we have enough hashtag Broncos questions in as our producing crew and team take a look at it? Jackson says Dan Campbell would be the best. The issue is Dan Campbell drinks like 10 cups of coffee. So we're talking a lot of bathroom stops, and I hate bathroom stops on road trips. And he's got some Energizer Bunny in him. Okay, we've got enough questions in. Super chat still. Keep them coming. Hashtag Broncos. Anything under the sun related to this team, we'll talk about it. And if you want to guarantee your question gets on screen, use hashtag Broncos. McCullough, at the end of the mailbag, let's throw Leslie's super chat on screen, no matter what, for getting on. Okay, first one on. It's not even really a question, but more of a statement. But sure, first one. I like it even better. Now, let's jump into a live Q&A. Mailbag time here at the Broncos Breakdown. We're going to be answering questions that you guys had from our live show, which aired Tuesday afternoon. We go 4 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Mountain Time every single week, or 3 o'clock Mountain Time, excuse me. So make sure to tune in every other Tuesday and ask your questions. Now, first one is more of a very kind statement here, a super chat from the Leslinator. Best Broncos channel in the nation. Leslie, thank you so much. Now, our first question on today's show is from Garrett, longtime viewer at the channel. Trade Jeudy to trade back in the draft, maybe? Denver was pretty hell-bent on not giving up Jeudy without getting a first in return. It doesn't seem like any team is offering that, but also we are in that no man's land where teams are going to scout wide receivers. And if they deem that Jerry Jeudy is better than Quentin Johnston or Zay Flowers or some other receivers who are getting first-round buzz, well, then you could easily see a Marquise Brown or an A.J. Brown trade last year on draft day. So do not rule out a draft day trade. If a team finally calls and makes the offer that Denver's been looking for, they definitely would think about it and maybe even accept it. But as for just moving up, I don't think Denver's going to be initiating these trade talks. If they get an offer they can't refuse and that prompts them back into round one, well, there you have it. Next question coming in from Demetrios. We really need run-stopping support. I agree. Sean Payton will probably draft a tight end too, as the draft is filled with them. This is a very good tight end class, but ultimately I see them trading their picks to move up or down. Denver's only got 5 picks in this draft. They have to make every single one count, right? They cannot waste picks on players who they don't know if they really have a spot for. And so that's why I wonder, is tight end really the best when you've got an ascending guy in Greg Dulcich and you saw Albert O somewhat get resurrected once Hackett got fired last year? So as for adding run-stopping support, you've got my full agreement in that because they need more defensive linemen. Wazurike out of Iowa State last year was pretty much a non-factor. Matt Henningsen from Wisconsin. I mean, they were just rookies last year, so you can't quite close the book on them, but they need to add more players for sure. Mile High Fandom, could you see the Broncos trading for Austin Eckler in any world? Any world that we live in? No. I just cannot see two AFC West teams coming together and making a trade happen to move a star player over. Now, Austin Eckler, he has been very good. I mean, if you have him in fantasy football, you know what I'm talking about here. Just on the ground, 2 straight seasons of 12-plus rushing touchdowns. He also, of course, adds a ton in the receiving department, where he had 5 last year and 8 the season before. I'm not presenting anyone with any brand new information. We know how good Austin Eckler is and can be for the Chargers. But at the end of the day, if he was in the NFC West, this would have a lot more legs to it. But they signed Samaje Perine. I don't see why this team feels like they are an aging running back who wants another contract and more money away from really doing a whole lot in 2023. I just don't think it's a good fit for Denver because they're not one running back away. Maybe a team like the Eagles, for example, right? Or a team that's looking to go over the top like the Bills. The Broncos, keep your draft picks. Don't spend that much on an old running back for, 1, 2, at max 3 more seasons. But let me know, should the Broncos add another running back? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Timor Geis, I hope I pronounced that correctly. We need depth at corner, especially if Hicks gets in trouble from his arrest. This is true. Van Hicks was arrested in Florida on a concealed carry charge. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't have the exact lingo down correctly. But I'll be honest. Whether or not Hicks got arrested for that, that does not change my outlook on the Broncos cornerback room for 2023. I did not have Hicks penciled in to be a big impact player this season. They need to add some extra depth behind Damari Mathis and K'Wan Williams because they are one injury away from a cornerback going on the field and everyone in attendance going, who is that? And you don't want to be that guy early in the season. So I could see them using one of their first 2 picks on a corner for sure. What's going on, Eddie Martinez? Would you rather move up in the draft or move back and get more picks? I think there was a bit of a fallacy with the idea of I'd rather have 10 picks rather than 6 good picks. So if Denver finds someone that they love in this situation, bundling those 2/3 and getting a guy in the second, I'm not going to be pitching a fit over. In general, it's very situational. I know I'm not giving you a clear-cut answer, but for the Broncos in 2023 with their 5 picks, I'd probably rather see them move back a little bit because they're not one guy away in the second round from doing a whole lot this year. Now, maybe that's a good pick for the long term, but the draft is a bit of a crapshoot. So if you can pick up some more picks for this year, or better yet, next year, when you're really trying to do something, if you're moving on from Russell Wilson and you're like, you know what, the Russell Wilson starting days are over, we go back into the 2024 draft, we've got our first round draft pick, we still don't have a day 2 pick or second round pick because of the Sean Payton trade, but we got some 3rds, we got some 4ths, and we feel like we are ready to make some moves. Now, if you want to be on a future mailbag, they're subscribers only. So it's completely free. Hit that sub button. And if you're already subscribed, turn on your notifications. Hit that notification bell icon. And when you do, you'll know when we're going live, like mailbags right now, so you do not miss out. Jackson Nicholson, what's going on? Do you think the Broncos could pick up Devin White for cheap? Good question. Devin White, former 5th-round pick out of LSU, has not lived up to 5th-round pick status. He's had a kind of a roller coaster-ish career. Slow start, was great when they went and won the Super Bowl, but last year, he was not a good off-ball linebacker. Devin White probably runs you, I don't know, a 4th-round pick at most. Now, here's the issue. They've just invested a lot into Alex Singleton, and they've still got Josey Jewell for one more year. So if they're adding Devin White for $11 million, by the way, that's what you have to pay him. Who are you moving on from? You're going to add Devin White and then trade away Josey Jewell? Or you're going to run with 3 off-ball linebackers, which they're not currently slated to do. So I just don't see it being a good fit for the Broncos. Plus, if you're trading for him, you better have hopes to either win the Super Bowl that year because he's the last piece of the puzzle, or you want to extend him. Neither one of those things fit the Broncos for 2023. Eddie Martinez again on the show. Which wide receiver will have the biggest impact next season? Under Sean Payton, I think Tim Patrick is some good stock to buy into, but I think Jerry Jeudy, the way he ended last year, finally felt and looked like he started to click, right? He started to look like the 15th overall pick in the draft, the wide receiver 1, the wide receiver for this team for 2, maybe even 3 contracts. So I'm hoping it's Jerry Jeudy. That's who I'm going to go with, but keep an eye on Tim Patrick. Peyton the GOAT. After seeing Jeff Okudah get traded, could you see Denver trading for a cornerback like Greg Newsome? You know, it's kind of a bummer that Jeff Okudah got traded just because the night before I saw from one of those, crappy NFL Twitter accounts saying Jeff Okudah might get traded, and then he got traded to the Falcons the next day. But anywho, there was an interesting story with Greg Newsome to get back on track here where a Browns reporter said Greg Newsome wants to get traded, and then Greg Newsome quote tweeted that and said more or less, no, right, not, from Borat. And then that tweet got deleted from the reporter, and it sounds like he's staying in Cleveland. So I don't see Denver trading for a corner because they are on fumes when it comes to assets right now. And if you want to say F them picks, you better win the Super Bowl. And does anyone think Denver's winning the Super Bowl this year? Because I don't. Now, Greg Newsome, if we're going to take a, more zero-in approach on the former first-round pick out of Northwestern, he has been good. He has not been great through 2 seasons. I know that Cleveland started him off outside his rookie season, and then last year they moved him to the nickel, right? Trying to be a Bryce Callahan, if you will. Just not a good fit for him. So maybe because his value is kind of a bit low right now, you could get him for, I still think it would cost you a second round or something Denver doesn't have. So I don't see the Browns wanting to move on from him, and I don't see I don't see Denver looking to make a trade for him. So with that being said, we're going to get to some more questions in just a second, but sort of an off-the-wall question here. What's your favorite pizza spot? Now, Chat Sports is located in Dallas, Texas. I don't know if anyone watching right now lives in Dallas. There is no good pizza in Dallas, Texas. My favorite pizza spot is a New York chain called Grimaldi's. So let me know your favorite pizza spot down in the comment section. Eddie Martinez asking, what would be the best alternate helmet? Good question. It's a little hard to answer without a visual aid, but I think some icy white helmets could be pretty cool. Now, the issue is I think the Arizona Cardinals have the worst helmets in football because it's more or less a third-grade art project, right? It's a Word doc. It's a white blank canvas, and they put the logo in the middle. So that's my fear on that, but I didn't oppose the gradient the Jags had. Remember that? The gold into black gradient? It wouldn't probably happen with the Broncos, but unpopular opinion, I liked it. So I think an orange and blue swirl could be ugly, could be cool, but it could be ugly. It's hard to say without seeing it beforehand. Tyrone, what's going on? How much money would it take to get Patrick Surtain signed to a long-term deal? So you can't extend Surtain or any player until their 3rd year in the league is up. So Surtain is going to get a monster extension next offseason. Now, Jair Alexander recently got paid. Well, he got the biggest payday most recently last year by the Packers. 5 years, $100.5 million. That's an average of $20 million-ish a season. Surtain's going to look for 22, 23 million a season. So 5 years, what's the math on that? 5 years, 115, something like that. I don't think it's going to be 125, but he's going to be looking and he'll be deserving of a 5-year, $22.5 million a season type of contract. So that's what you can expect to see for Surtain next offseason. It's going to get done. This is just something the Denver Broncos will not screw up, I hope. All right, before we get on out of here, one more time, your favorite pizza spot, sound off in the comment section below. Aaron says Shakey's Pizza. Jackson says the pizza on my cruise I went on. I mean, the ultimate weight gain drug is the cruise industry. If you want to put some poundage on, you know what I mean? Anytime like boxers or anyone's trying to put weight on, put them on a cruise. You will step off and the scale will break. So I don't disagree. Whatever cruise line you were on, I'm sure it was great. Garrett says Cosmos Pizza in Boulder, Colorado. Eddie says Marco's Pizza. I like it. Aaron, do you think Eli Ricks could fall in the third round to Denver? Again, he's the cornerback from Bama. Maybe. This is serving as a good reminder, by the way, Aaron. You're going to see McShay and Kuiper mocks. And a lot of the big J's and big draft gurus put mock drafts out. And they're going to have some guys go really early or really late and have conflicting ranges. And it goes to show they're just guessing, right? Do yourself a favor. Go look up 2022 NFL mock draft from Todd McShay. And then compare that to the draft results. And see who he had some places like Nakobe Dean going in the first round. And then he didn't go in the third round. You know what I'm saying? So could Eli Ricks be there? Yes, that's not out of the question. He's not a first-round lock. So anyone that's got a round 2 grade on them, I think could be on the board early in round 3 when Denver is picking. All right, unless we get another super chat, we will sign off here. Kenny says Pizza Barn in Edgewood, New Mexico. Dylan says Vencia's. Downey Pizza in Downey, California. We got a Tom Downey here at Chat Sports. He's a bit of a trash can when it comes to eating. He wants free and he wants cold. Like, he does not care about any food. So, I don't know. Downey Pizza, that sounds like a place he would love to go to. Okay, we are going to part ways unless we get another super chat. But, hey, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in, for hanging out with us here. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you did, share this stream. Tell your friends, tell your family to tune in next time we go live on the channel. That way we can do more live Broncos breakdowns.